Hey guys, it's me, RK010. I am working on the Nair video. It's just I need a bit more time with clips and also all my notes that I've been taking, so I can easily, make a much more, in-depth thing into Nair, because Nair is a pretty intense move to talk about with all of its many properties. But for right now, just to kill some time, and just to let you guys enjoy some of my tutorials, we will talk about Greninja Stages, which are his best, which are his worst, what are some awesome tips about it. Now, I'm going to be covering about a few. Now, it's not going to be all the tournament legal stages, it's going to be more like the more consistent stages that you would see mostly, kind of like, Smashville or Town and City or something like that. So I'm not going to be covering transformation stages unless you guys want me to make another video on that, which I don't mind. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started on this video on Greninja Stages. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off what I think is probably Greninja's worst stage, but ironically could probably be his best stage in certain matchups, and I play on this stage the most out of like all the stages I'm going to be talking about, which is Final Destination. Now, Final Destination has no platforms, obviously. It's pretty wide. It's a pretty wide stage, and it's pretty huge. Like, the blast zones are pretty huge. I think it's like second biggest, I'm not sure, but it's pretty huge. So the reasons why I say that it's a pretty bad stage for Greninja is because of the lack of platforms. You can't really, go in and out. You can't really safely recover high or anything. And plus, Greninja's, means of movement is pretty key here when it comes to playing as him. So using platforms to his advantage is really good. And also with the big blast zones, it could really hinder Greninja's kill power because of how huge the blast zones are. And also with some characters, like how wide the stage is, it can be kind of hard to approach with, kind of like going against Sonic, for example, on FD is a nightmare, but going against Pikachu on FD wouldn't be that much of an issue. So either though, I do say it's probably Greninja's worst stage, that I think it's probably the best one to use or go against some of the, higher echelon of characters to go against, because I think it's more like the double-edged sword type of stage for Greninja. Now, the next stage I do find pretty bad, but it's not as bad as Final Destination, which would probably be Battlefield, I think. Now, the reason why I'm okay with Battlefield, and I was kind of conflicted to say which one's worse, Battlefield or Final Destination. One thing that is a big key difference is that obviously there are platforms. So Greninja can have, all the movement options he needs on those platforms. But also a big key thing though is that when you compare the base stage to FD and Battlefield, Battlefield is much smaller. And it's a pretty big thing for matchups too. So having like platforms and a smaller stage, you can kind of, outmaneuver some of the characters. It's easy to go against Sonic as Greninja on Battlefield because of how small it is, and plus you have so many access and so many uses out of the platforms, so you can easily outmaneuver Sonic easily since how small it is. It's just that the only thing that really gets me though is that it has like the biggest blast zones, like out of all the legal stages. So it could really take a while for Greninja to kill. Unless you kill off the top platform, then you have really no issues. But if someone knows if that's your game plan, then you'll kind of have a bit of a rough time. However, since it's bigger, Greninja's light, so you can survive a bit longer too. So that's another big thing to note about too. So Battlefield, if I have to choose between FD or Battlefield, depending on the matchup, but 99% of the time, if it's under my favor, I would end up choosing Battlefield in my opinion. The next stage, and it's kind of the more out there type of stages, probably something that no one would really expect me to put in, but it's Duck Hunt. Now, the reason why I like Duck Hunt so much for Greninja is because, well, it's pretty big, both the blast zones and just the stage itself being bigger too. That's kind of the big thing, but also it has walls. Like the side, instead of like a lip, it actually has like a whole wall, kind of like Yoshi's story in Melee, I think. Because the big thing about that is that Greninja has this really stupid thing with his recovery, which is whenever he like angles himself while hydro pumping towards the ledge, he kind of bounces off. And when he bounces off, you can't use hydro pump again, and you're basically screwed. You're dead. It's like tripping, but your recovery, which is awful. That's an awful design choice, I would say so myself. But with the walls that they added, basically, you can actually just, you know, you mess up, you end up bumping your head, and then you wall cling. Because Greninja has a wall cling. So when you wall cling, you can jump back and grab onto the ledge again. So your survivability is massively good. Now, another big thing though too about the survivability is, since it's a big stage in general, Greninja can survive really good. And I think the biggest thing that really benefits Greninja the most is that out of all the stages, this stage, it's okay to shadow sneak in neutral or as part of your mix-up plan. Because when you shadow sneak, you see, you know, the shadow on the floor of the stage, but when someone, you know, can't see it because how Duck Hunt is angled, has an angled type of camera layout, it's very, very hard to distinguish if you're shadow sneaking or not, especially since you're mixing up your movement really quickly. So shadow sneaking is pretty beneficial, and it's a really good kill move too, nonetheless. So it's okay to kind of use it in neutral, but don't be too predictable to the point that, oh, if he's gonna down throw me, he's currently gonna, you know, use the shadow sneak mix up or something. So just keep your eye out on that. I just find it to be a pretty interesting stage. Okay, now the next stage that I find to be probably the most neutral stage of Greninja in my opinion is Smashville. Smashville has almost the same dimensions as FD, except it's with a platform. So basically people usually call Smashville FD with a platform, but the stage itself, it's a little bit smaller, and also, like I said, big major thing is that there's a platform. Now, even though the blast zones, like the ceiling's pretty high, the like side blast zones are actually smaller. Now, even though that Greninja's horizontal type of kill moves doesn't shine as much as his vertical kills, it's still a pretty notable thing, especially since you could kill really early on the platform, like if it's like really near the platform, like blast zone edge, and if it's like moving towards that area, then you can easily, you know, net some kills off of it too. And plus, comboing with a platform makes a huge difference to Greninja's combo game than just, oh, bam, flat stage, I can't really maneuver as much. So I would say it's the most neutral stage though, because still big stage, he could survive a bit longer. It's just with the platform added and everything, and plus the stage being smaller itself, like the base stage, like he can probably help out maneuver, because that's the big thing about Greninja. You have to remember, he can outmaneuver a lot of things since he has the overall best movement speed. Alright, so the one that I do find probably one of the more, you know, better stages though is Town and City. Now, Town and City, I like it very much because of the, you know, ever so moving, you know, platform layouts. Like it always keeps changing, so it kind of keeps you on your toes a bit. It may be a big stage, but with the platforms always changing, plus the platforms are fairly huge too, so it kind of makes up for that. But I think the biggest thing that really makes this stage really good for Greninja, just trading off the big, you know, giant stage alone for people to move around better, is that it has a really low ceiling. The big thing about, you know, having a very low ceiling stage though is that Greninja can do like up tilt to, like it can do up tilt to up air really good. It's really good. I mean, all of his vertical like KO moves, his best KO moves basically kills much earlier. I mean, it's drastically good with a low ceiling stage. I mean, I killed like Bowser with an up throw up air read within like 80% on like the top platform alone. I mean, it's pretty nuts. And low ceiling stages with, you know, many room to run around with really big platforms, it's pretty good. So I do like Town and City a lot in that merit. So the last stage that I find very, very good in Greninja's list of stage, I would say it's good, is Dreamland 64. It's probably the most broken stage for Greninja. It truly is. So the reason why I say it's broken is because it's basically Battlefield, except the platforms are raised up a little bit. And I mentioned this like over and over about platforms, really big thing. But the biggest thing though is that it has a low ceiling, raised up platforms. You can KO people so early, and plus it's a playground for Greninja. I mean, seriously, you can play with your food. Basically, you play with your food. That's basically what you're doing in Dreamland 64, and it's like one of my favorite stages. You basically play with your food. That's it. It's so good. It's a really wonderful stage. I love it a lot. It's just low ceiling Battlefield. Jesus Christ, it's so good. I love it a lot. So yeah, sorry for the very vague description about Dreamland 64, but oh god, it's so good. It's very, very good for Greninja. So this is RK010, and soon that Nair video will be made. And yes, see you later.